Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Is it worth having a wedding? Is it worth having kids? Because it's just so financially infeasible with the cost of everything.
Why the cost of living is forcing some young families to reconsider having children. Also,
we worry. We worry every day about what's next day brings us, right?
From support to harassment, how local businesses with ties to Russia are faring. And a scientific breakthrough that happened right here in Vancouver, how our life may in fact flash before our eyes as we die.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening, I'm Anita Bathe. From home ownership being out of reach to the cost of goods rising every day, more and more Canadians are being pushed to the limit. That includes young families who are delaying having children because life is simply too expensive. And as the CBC's Michelle Gassoub reports, some are even choosing not to have kids at all.
Get married, buy a home, have a baby, a traditional dream, but is it still realistic?
The conversation of like, can we have a kid? No, we can't afford it. And that's the beginning and end of that conversation every time.
Arden Matthews is 26 years old, engaged, and has a well-paying job. But the cost of living in BC means parenthood is still a distant dream.
Being able to rent a place with enough space in it to raise a kid in Metro Vancouver seems like a fantasy. It doesn't seem like a real possibility to us at all.
Stats Canada data shows 19% of Canadians aged 19 to 45 want fewer children than they did before the pandemic, in part citing the skyrocketing cost of just about everything.
Diapers have gone up like $5 to $10 even since I started buying diapers, depending on the brand, right? And it's just incredible. I can't keep up.
Danielle Godet grew up dreaming of a big family. She's since accepted her son Theodore will likely be her only child because it's just too expensive.
Because honestly, he would have a sibling now if I had it my way, and I would probably have a third on the way as well if I had it my way. But I don't.
Another 14% of Canadians say they're delaying starting a family, hoping the cost of living will come down. But Yu Ching Su says she wishes she'd started having kids earlier, before parenthood felt like a luxury.
If we started out 10 years ago, we would have four. If the housing market didn't quadruple, we would have four. And I think those are very difficult reality that we have to come to terms with.
The parents we spoke with say government intervention is needed.
There's just a very solid possibility there's going to be a much, much smaller next generation in this city because people can't afford to have kids.
Because children are our future, and if we're not having babies, then where are we going?
The worry is, if nothing changes, many will soon be priced out of parenthood entirely. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Gas prices on Vancouver Island are reaching new highs, with some stations in Victoria nearing $1.95 a litre. The province has shied away from any talk of capping prices, even as fuel costs continue to go up. Prices are expected to go even higher as Russia continues to wage its war against Ukraine. Last week, Premier John Horgan admitted the upcoming summer will be a challenging time for drivers. He says, though, there are enough safeguards in place to prevent price gouging. Well, Vancouver police are looking for a person of interest in the murder of a Kitsilano Park caretaker. The VPD has released this video, hoping it could lead to the arrest of the person suspected of killing Tatlow Park caretaker Justice Daniel. He was found dead in December inside his home near West 3rd Avenue and McDonald Street.
The man in the video can be seen walking on the south side of Point Grey Road on the afternoon of December 9th, 2021. Investigators believe this man may have information that could assist the investigation.
Police are asking anyone who recognizes the man in the video to call the VPD Major Crime Section. A Vancouver man has been charged for allegedly making and distributing child pornography. 40-year-old Chris John Olson is considered a high-risk offender. He's already been convicted of a number of sex offenses against kids, including sex assault. These new charges come after New Zealand authorities identified a number of accounts online sharing child porn, and they were linked to suspects in Vancouver. Then the VPD got involved, and police say the alleged crimes happened between January of 2019 and June of 2020 and involved victims in Canada and the U.S. The number of COVID-19 hospitalizations continues to drop in BC, down by 20% from a week ago. 5 fewer patients are in hospital since yesterday for a total of 517, and 10 fewer people are in critical care. 10 more people have died of the virus since yesterday. And some exciting news if you're in the orca baby pool. The Southern Resident Orca Group, known as J-Pod, has welcomed a brand new calf. Researchers rendezvoused with J-Pod yesterday near the San Juan Islands. There, they found the new addition to the group swimming next to an orca designated as J37. Scientists believe the baby was born within the past few days, given its lumpy physical nature. The sex of the big tyke, now called J59, is still unknown, but it looks to be in good physical condition. Johanna Wagstaff is off tonight, so we welcome Nick Czernkovich with the forecast and lots of talk about the downpours.
Hi there, Anita. Well, today looking at showers across the region, and we had some good rounds of rainfall move through Metro Vancouver later in the afternoon. And this is what we're expecting as we go through the next I'd say 18 hours or so into tomorrow morning and sort of the late morning hours, and then things begin to ease off a little bit. So we've had a few rounds of showers move through the region, and the heaviest just coming sort of later in the afternoon. As we move through the overnight period tonight, look for continued showers, although they will be sort of on and off. So this is not a heavy rainfall event per se. It continues into tomorrow morning as well, and then as we head through sort of the late morning, early afternoon, it breaks up. Risk for an afternoon shower with a little bit of sunshine in there, helping to heat things up. And then as we move through tomorrow night, though, things begin to clear out. And by Friday morning, the risk of a little bit in the way of fog patches, but then it clears out and we're into sunshine. Now, I want to show you the larger temperature pattern here. And this is sort of indicative of the broad scale weather pattern. One thing you're going to notice from this is that not a whole lot changes here over the next few days. And that's really the story. We've got a weather pattern that's locking in place, and we're going to see continued persistent sunshine that's going to start sort of tomorrow late day and continue as we head through the weekend. Here's a look at the next 24 hours, 8 degrees tomorrow and showers in the morning, then 9 for the afternoon. And we've got even better weather in the long range forecast. That's coming up in just a bit. Anita.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Weather update brought to you by Alegria by Cirque du Soleil. Opens March 25th at Concord Pacific Place.
1 week into the invasion of Russia invading Ukraine, local businesses with ties to the region have felt a ripple effect. There's been support for some and harassment for others. Our John Hernandez reports on the differing experiences of Russian and Ukrainian owners here.
It might have Russia in the name, but this Vancouver bakery is a celebration of all foods from the region.
We cook food which is Russian, and 30% of this food actually Ukrainian as well.
Customers here are loyal. However, amid the ongoing Russian invasion of the Ukraine, this restaurant has started receiving harassing phone calls, some callers telling them to close.
Some people swear. I will not hide. We don't communicate with them. We can't explain. People who just start conversation, are you still open? And swear words, right?
Owner Natalia Mitrofanova has since displayed the Ukrainian flag to let customers know her stance on the war. She's even donating proceeds from her dishes to the country. Still, with tensions escalating overseas, there's always concerns the same could happen here.
We were pretty safe here at Harbor Center. We have security, we have nice customers whoever they come to us, but still, kind of, we worry. We worry every day about what's next they bring us, right?
Other businesses with Russian ties have reported similar incidents. One owner of this Vancouver store declined an interview, telling CBC News they've received death threats. But it's a different story for some Ukrainian businesses, which say they've received more support from the community.
There was a lot of very emotional people came in to pick up flags in order to show their pride and to show their protest, too.
This Victoria flag shop with Ukrainian ties has been selling out of Ukrainian flags day after day.
We're a little store, but, you know, if everybody can do a little bit, and then we can get the millstone rolling, right? Once that millstone gets rolling with a whole bunch of people pushing, it should make a big difference.
We want the best for everybody, for Ukrainians, for Canadians, even for Russian civilian people who now suffering in Russia too.
Different experiences, but values that are deeply aligned. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
To that war now, and Russian troops continue to make gains as some cities in Ukraine fall, but the wins come with substantial costs. 500 Russian soldiers have died so far in the invasion, a number that the Ukrainian government says is low. Susan Ormiston is in the city of Lviv with a first-hand look at the resistance.
Ukraine's two biggest cities under intense pressure. Kharkiv today and tonight, a big blast near the train station in Kyiv. The city's mayor says the war has prompted a huge patriotic movement, and we found part of that at an old factory district in Lviv. They're called Lviv smoothies, a mixture of gas and oil. Lit on fire, they turn into Molotov cocktails. We can't show you exactly where they're made, but an army of young Ukrainians have been busy organizing donations of water, clothing, medicine to be sent to the front lines. And last weekend, a truck full of smoothies. In an old factory bomb shelter, they barely pause for the air raid siren. Students, young professionals, moving supplies, organizing to fight the enemy, the Russian invaders.
I'm angry. I don't afraid. I'm angry to Russia because we were living nice. After 30 years, finally raised from that Soviet Union, and we want to Europe. We won't be part of Europe Union.
Oleg Boyanivsky is 28, a lawyer helping to organize a movement like the young Ukrainians who toppled a president back in 2014.
Like in 2014, like Maidan, we are all communicate, and everyone said, we have friend there, and everyone sent their help from abroad and from Ukraine.
They have so much power, military power, and you have volunteers.
We have power in our hearts.
They're powered by patriotism and fury. Ukrainians are preparing, protecting their homes in a Lviv neighborhood. A sandbagged fortress and a checkpoint to keep them safe from Russian sympathizers. A list of license plates warns of suspicious cars already in the city. Nazar is 23. Will you fight? If required, I will defend my country. If the war goes long, a resistance could become an insurgency, a fierce foe for an invading army.
You have to put your energy somewhere, right? So we put it into barricades.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think we're gonna win this war, right? There's no any options.
Back in the bomb shelter, Oleg and his army are just getting started.
Slava Ukraini!
Glory to Ukraine, they shout. Glory to the heroes. But resistance won't come easily. Russians are battling to control southern cities. The first to fall, Kherson, a strategic city along a corridor that could open up to link Russia through to Crimea. And in Kyiv, increasing pressure night after night as people shelter in place, wondering if that huge Russian armed convoy will advance on the city. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Lviv, Ukraine.
Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs is in Poland assessing the humanitarian crisis at the border. The CBC's national host, Adrienne Arsenault, is there as well. She has more on the desperate situation for Ukrainians pushed to the edges of their country, burdened with uncertain times ahead.
When the bus rolls into Rzeszów, Poland, the exhausted and vulnerable who'd left Ukraine hours earlier pile on. Not entirely sure where it's going, absolutely sure it will be somewhere safer. Today, it's to a shelter in Krakow for a week, 2, probably more. Even those who can't bear to believe it know it. Women with sons too young to fight hold them close. For Yana, scared to give us her last name, communication is urgent. Local SIM cards a lifeline.
My husband was here in Kiev, and I was very nervous because he is not online. I can't call, I can't message.
The volunteer response is enthusiastic, but at times it feels makeshift and frenetic. Some needs are new and complicated.
The problem is because the Ukrainian people hasn't money, have only Ukrainian money. Nobody wants to buy this money.
If you can't exchange it, you're stuck. If you have kids to carry and bags too, you're stuck. In the chaos of triage comes a stranger, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, to assess the scale of the need. Melanie Joly admits it all took her aback.
And so it was very emotional, but at the same time, it made my team and I even more determined to put maximum pressure on the Putin regime.
And what does that look like? What does that newly look like, maximum pressure?
Well, today we're announcing 10 new sanctions against oligarchs, 10 people that are working in the oil and gas industry in Russia that are close to Putin and his guard.
Sanctions take patience, saving lives takes speed. And the speed of all that's happened still stuns. This is 18-day-old Diana. Her mother's face we're not showing you because she's scared. She's a dentist. Her husband of 15 years is now fighting. Their lovely life has vanished. Even if she could get home, she says, everyone is gone. There's no electricity. Nothing, she fears, is left. All that from a war that started a week ago right now.
That's the CBC's Adrian Arsenault for us tonight in Poland. A Fraser Valley family living in western Ukraine has hunkered down as Russian forces move closer. Chad Martz, his wife, and 17-year-old daughter are with Hungry for Life International. That's a Christian charity based in Chilliwack. I spoke with Chad earlier today, and I began by asking what the situation is like where he is.
Right now, a lot of people ask, are you safe? And yeah, we are in a safe part of the country that has not had any registered attacks. So that does put us in a unique position to be able to help those who are fleeing from the conflict zone. So what does it look like here? It's still relatively peaceful outside of the huge amount of people who are coming out this way. So yeah, it's peaceful in terms of conflict, but in terms of humanitarian crisis, it's very intense.
Can you give us a bit of a picture of the people that are coming your way? How many people are you seeing, and what are you doing to help them?
Yeah, I mean, you see a whole variety of people in terms of people who have traveled in vehicles and who just come out west to, they're parking along the side of the road just hoping to find somewhere to go. You have people who are contacting churches, which is who we've partnered with. So you have people who are in church buildings, in any type of shelter that they can find, in addition to just regular common people's homes. So what we are specifically doing is we partnered with the churches to supply the needs that people have. The churches don't have the resources to be able to provide for people, let alone for a longer period of time. So we are providing things like beds, pillows, clean water, food, and the such. And it's the same thing that goes with people's homes, individuals' homes. They don't have the resources to care for these people. For an example, I'll even give you my own mother-in-law. She lives in just a small 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, kitchen, and living room, and she has 35 people in her place. And so how does somebody with a small pension that she can't even pay for her own monthly expenses pay for and cover the cost of the people who are coming? So we're supporting the people who are coming and being in these different homes. So that's currently what we're doing during this crisis time.
I mean, that's incredible. You don't even realize that 35 people in a small place. Wow. You know, you're doing all this and you've chosen not to leave. Are you worried about your safety at all and the safety of your family? And what would it take for you to say, we have to go now?
Yeah, I think initially when discussing about, you know, if we were going to leave and when that would be, but it wasn't a very long conversation that we had, even with our 17-year-old daughter. And again, we're in a position here that we're in relative safety right here, and to turn our backs on people, especially with the experience that we have, the network that we have, the organization in Canada that we have in supporting us. I don't know how we could do that to people who are coming and leaving everything that they've got. How can we turn our backs on that? We can't leave.
Chilliwack's Chad Martz is doing charity work in Ukraine with his family. Thank you, Chad, for taking the time with us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
Interest rates are moving up ever so slightly. What that slight uptick might mean for homeowners and where the rates could go. That's next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, snowmobile races have had a long tradition in Newfoundland and Labrador. Some riders, like Robert Watson, have been racing since the 70s, and he's doing it on a machine that's almost as old as the races itself. Have a look.
One of our most dedicated racers, Robert Watson, running a vintage 77 SRX 440, 1977. So if you want to go,
he's like one of the legends too, yeah.
He raced in the original Labrador drag races.
Yeah.
We've got pictures of him back in the 80s racing almost identical sled as what he is now.
I started back 73, I believe it was. Back with the old Tanya Snowcart Club, doing oval races. Oh, back then I was running Arctic Cats, so I had a 72 EXT 440 and a 76 Altigra Z 250. I've done a few thousand races and won a few hundred. So today I had two Yamahas, an SRX 440 and a 700. Oh, my newest one is a 98. I like the old sleds. The engine size, I mean, my 78 440 back in 78 was big class. And now we're into, just like here for the most part, 1,000, 1,100 cc 4-stroke turbos that make unreal horsepower. My old 78 is 80, 85 horsepower. The big guys are running up in the 300 horsepower range. The wife says no more, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got about 4 or 5 more at the house that I'm working on. It's probably the old Altigra that I have, 75 Altigra that I have. It belonged to a buddy of mine that I used to race with, and we used to have some good times on the track, and I managed to find that one a few years ago and picked it up. So I'm in the process of restoring that one now to get it back here racing. When you start, you're going to be addicted, and it's going to cost you a lot of money.
As expected, the Bank of Canada has raised its interest rate by 0.25%, now standing at 0.5%. This is the first increase of the bank's benchmark rate since October of 2018. The bank says the war in Ukraine has triggered a lot of economic uncertainty, and it will likely add to inflation pressures, requiring further rate increases. As Jacqueline Hansen reports, it's part of an effort to slow inflation, which hit a 30-year high last month.
From the grocery store to the gas station, Canadians' finances have been getting squeezed from all sides. Now interest rates are heading higher, too.
People are in panic.
Mortgage broker Rasha Ingrata created a Facebook page to communicate with her clients and try to calm their concerns.
They're thinking that their payments are going to go up drastically.
Lenders are already passing on the Bank of Canada's first hike. Variable rate debt that's pegged to prime is going up. Take a $400,000 variable rate mortgage. A quarter-point increase adds about $50 a month. If there are 5 more of the same rate hikes this year as markets expect, that jumps almost $300.
The economy is doing well. We no longer need the crutch of such low interest rates.
So the central bank is raising rates to cool borrowing and hopefully inflation too.
To bring inflation down, unfortunately, we have to cause some economic pain, and it will take a series of interest rate hikes.
Supply chain disruptions, higher consumer demand, and energy costs are driving prices up. Plus, the Bank of Canada says the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine by Russia is a major new source of uncertainty that will add to inflation around the world. For Canadians living paycheck to paycheck, even a small interest rate increase could be a stretch.
How are you going to be able to increase what you have to pay on your debt when you also have to pay more for food and transportation and everything else?
Payment received, credit limit.
Roy Graham is on a pension and worries how much his variable rate line of credit could cost him if rates keep going up.
It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. It just keeps piling on. And at some point, it has to break. And that's what worries me.
Still, the central bank's hope is higher borrowing costs today will help keep prices from rising out of control in the future. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, Canada's WestJet has inked a deal to buy Sunwing Airlines and Sunwing Vacations. The price has not been made public. WestJet says the move will help the company offer more affordable airfares by expanding its footprint in Canada. It says acquiring Sunwing will increase capacity and that Sunwing aircraft will operate year-round in Canada instead of just seasonally. The company also says it will respect all arrangements with union and employee associations. The deal still needs regulatory approval and is expected to be done by the end of the year. Well, it's a trope we often see in movies just before death, memories of one's life flashing before their eyes. People in real life, too, with near-death experiences have reported the same thing, and now we know there's science that could back this up. For the first time ever, a team of scientists were able to record a dying human brain, and that brain belonged to an 87-year-old man right here in Vancouver. Earlier, I spoke with one of the neurosurgeons who discovered it.
The patient came in with a so-called subdural hematoma, which is a bleed between the skull and the brain, and then he developed seizures, for which we went ahead and attached EEG and electroencephalogram to monitor the brain's activity to help him treat the seizures. While the EEG was attached to the brain, we observed that he underwent cardiac seizure and unfortunately died. We didn't know at the time, but hindsight, we realized that this left us with the first ever recording of the dying human brain. The very similar brainwave patterns that are known in a healthy human being to represent the experiences of near death are present around the time of death in this patient. After the heart stops beating and pumping blood into the brain, this activity goes on for about 30 seconds.
And there's a lot of debate about when a person actually dies. So how does that play into this?
We grow up with this notion. If you look at movies, we see that, that line of the heart signal that goes flat. That is the one that determines when we pass away. Our set shows something different, namely 30 seconds after that signal is gone, the brain still is active.
I'm curious about why this hasn't been done before.
Ideally, I would like to have a healthy human being who has no other pathologies, who would volunteer for me to put a brain EEG on their scalp and record them before they die. In reality, nobody's going to come and sign up and say, hey, put this on my head for in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to die. This is impossible. These are the reasons why perhaps never before this has been recorded. At least to anything the literature tells us or what we know, nobody has done this before.
What do you hope this new discovery does for people who are losing loved ones?
I hope that unraveling the science of death and unraveling the mystery of death to see what happens in our brain would calm patients or their loved ones in these moments. I hope that it would give them calm to know that perhaps they're not suffering from pain, but they're replaying some of the nicest memories and moments of life that they've had with their loved ones before they go.
Absolutely. A nice piece of hope for sure. I think everyone wishes for that. Now, you have not had a chance to talk to the loved ones of this 87-year-old person in the study. If you could talk to them, what would you say to them? Or is there anything you want them to know?
It's one of the most frustrating things. I've been in very close contact with them at the time when this happened and even afterwards. And throughout the years, the email I used to use to be in contact with them didn't work anymore. And the phone number, I've been leaving multiple messages daily now. I don't know if they still use that phone number. I would like to tell them that their father, although passed 6 years ago now almost, is giving a very unique piece of knowledge to neuroscience and goes into history as the first ever recorded dying human brain. That I think is something I would like to share with them, and I hope that I'll have a chance to speak with them again.
Dr. Ajmal Zemmer is a neurosurgeon in Louisville, Kentucky, and part of the research team of a study published in the Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Your grocery bill is rising, but why? The complicated reasons behind food inflation and what you can do about it. That's coming up.
It's been circling the Earth for 11 years, but tonight, Russia's Mir space station is a crippled craft. The vessel is loaded with scientific experiments, but its most precious cargo are the 2 Russians and 1 American inside the space station. Their problems began during a routine docking exercise. An unmanned cargo ship the size of a bus crashed into one of Mir's solar panels, then ricocheted off Mir itself. The cargo ship punched a hole the size of a stamp in the side of Mir. Crew members heard a hiss, then felt a drop in pressure as oxygen leaked out of their ship. They quickly sealed off the damaged module.
The situation is stable and safe for the crew at this particular time, but the next few days are going to be critical in being able to regain enough capability on the Mir to continue operations.
These pictures show the damage to the solar panels. The collision cut the ship's power in half. Equipment has been shut down to conserve energy, leaving the crew floating through space in the dark. Some of the experiments inside the damaged station are likely ruined. This incident is raising questions about just how safe Mir really is. American astronaut Jerry Lininger returned from the space station in May.
It's a serious situation, and fire aboard an aircraft or spacecraft and decompression are the 2 most dangerous things that can happen on a orbiting vehicle. So, you know, we've had both of those.
Lininger was on board Mir when a fire broke out last February. A defective oxygen canister burst into flames, filling the craft with smoke. That's part of a long list of problems that have plagued the craft, from a broken air purification system to cooling equipment that leaked harmful antifreeze. However, here at Russian Mission Control, space officials were quick to defend their aging ship. Even NASA officials agreed Mir's age was not to blame for the accident this time.
This decompression that occurred could have happened on day one of the Mir's life just as easily as it happened today.
Mir's problems are being monitored here at the Canadian Space Agency. Officials here are working with the Russians and the Americans on a space station to be launched in 1999. The agency's Alain Poirier says this won't affect their plans.
Space is a challenging environment, and this is pretty well recognized at this point in time. And the astronauts are trained to expect the unexpected.
Crew members will now try to repair the damaged vessel, though it's not clear how long that will take or how long they can last without full power. There is an emergency Soyuz capsule docked at the station. It can bring them back home if Mir's problems get any worse. Mark Kelly, CBC News, Montreal.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Some people swear. I will not hide. We don't communicate with them. We can't explain. People who just start conversation, are you still open? And swear words.
1 week into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, local businesses with ties to the region have felt a ripple effect, from support for some to harassment for others. A Vancouver man is now facing 26 criminal charges for allegedly making and distributing child porn. It comes after a lengthy investigation that began in New Zealand. 40-year-old Chris John Olsen's alleged crimes took place between January of 2019 and June of 2020.
While we have savings, it would take about 17 years for me to afford a down payment for a mortgage.
From housing to food, with the rising cost of living in BC, some young families are reconsidering when to have kids or whether to have them at all. Stats Canada data also shows 20% of Canadians want fewer children than they did pre-pandemic, and 14% have delayed starting a family. Now, for those of us who do have kids, feeding them their favorite food could be tougher as grocery bills go up. CBC Kids News contributor Sarah Chaudhary breaks down why prices are going up and what that means for you and your family.
Oh, hey. You know, when I'm on a snack, it feels so simple. You go to the kitchen, grab it, eat it. But do you ever think about just how many people were involved in getting, say, this apple to this fridge, making it, moving it, paying for it? You may have heard that grocery bills have been getting more expensive lately. Adults in your life might be talking about inflation and rising costs, but what does that mean? I'm Sarah Chaudhary, and this is KN Explains Rising Food Prices. In December, Canada's food price report for 2022 came out. It's put out by a research team from 4 universities across Canada. This year's report is significant because it's predicting the highest increase in grocery costs since the first report was published for the year 2010. The report predicts that by the end of 2022, the typical Canadian family of 4 will have to spend $966.08 more on groceries than they did in 2021 just because of price increases. So why are food prices going up now? To better understand, I spoke to 2 experts. Simon Samoji, an economist who led one of the research teams that contributed to this year's food price report, and Carol McAusland, an economist at the University of British Columbia who studies food and the environment. Okay, so let's dig in. One word that comes up a lot is inflation. But what does it mean? Well, inflation is a term that comes from economics. If prices are higher today than, say, a year ago, that means your dollar can buy less than it did last year. That is inflation. It applies to all goods and services, including food, and it's usually tracked as a percentage. The 2022 report is predicting food price inflation of 5 to 7% compared to last year. Now, I know that might not seem like a lot, but as economist Carol McAuslin points out, over time...
Well, it adds up pretty quickly.
And for a lot of people, prices are increasing much faster than wages, meaning people have to pay more for things, but they aren't necessarily getting a pay raise to help fill the gaps. To explain why food is getting more expensive, let's first try to understand how food prices are decided to begin with. Okay, so let's use this apple from my fridge as an example. Well, first off, the apple, like all products we buy, have to be made, or I guess in this case, grown. This apple came from St. Catharines, Ontario, where it was grown on a farm. That farm then sold this apple, along with thousands of other apples, to another business who grades them, packages them, and then sells the higher grade apples to retailers like grocery stores. Some of those apples then get transported to the store and put out on the shelves, where the apples can finally get into the hands of the consumer, who, in this case of the apple, was my mom. All of that so I could have a nice mid-filming snack. At each point along the journey, there are costs that add up. And on top of those costs, each business has to make money. To keep up, as costs go up on one end, prices follow, leading to higher grocery bills. The COVID-19 pandemic is one of the reasons for increased costs. It's made it harder to find enough workers, and it has affected supply chains all over the world. You can learn more about supply chains in my last KN Explains video. Another reason food prices keep going up? Climate change. Weather is a big component of agriculture, and climate change has meant more wacky and difficult weather conditions like floods, droughts, hurricanes. Last summer, a heat wave hit the prairies and devastated crops like wheat. That's a big part of why baked goods, like bread, have been getting more expensive, according to the food price report.
I guess the projection is we might be moving to a new normal in which we're going to have more of these extreme weather events more often.
And wheat isn't just used to make food for humans. It's also used to feed animals. Animal feed prices going up means that the cost to produce animal products goes up too. Dairy is expected to be one of the categories with the highest price increase in 2022, and meat is already one of the more expensive items at the grocery store. Okay, so there's a lot going on when it comes to food costs and prices, and we've only just scratched the surface. But why does this all matter? So going back to the prediction, $966 increase in the family grocery bill. For some, that much spread over a year might not seem like a lot, but
the higher food costs particularly impact those with lower salaries, particularly women, Indigenous people, people of colour.
This historic rise in food prices is a threat to food security and could mean more Canadians will become food insecure. Food insecurity means not having regular and reliable access to enough nutritious food. According to the 2018 census, 4.4 million Canadians were considered food insecure, 1.2 million of them children. The most food insecure place in Canada is Nunavut, where as of 2018, 57% of the population experienced food insecurity. That's why we turned to Rachel Blaze.
I'm the executive director here at Czernkovich,
a community food center in Iqaluit that provides free meals, education programs, and advocates for food sovereignty, which is the
right for people to have access to healthy, affordable food that's also culturally appropriate.
So what are some solutions or potential responses to food costs rising? One suggestion is for people to budget, with many financial experts sharing tips on how Canadians can shop for deals and change their habits to save money. Another tip, be less wasteful.
And so we've got about 40% of what we grow ends up in the bin.
McGosland says that things like best before dates, which are required by law to appear on many food items, can be misleading.
Often those things are just fine after the best before date.
She says more education could help prevent people tossing perfectly good food, which is good for the environment and also good for the wallet. While those tips might be practical for some Canadians, for people already struggling to pay for the basics,
budgeting more on an individual level often means having less nutrients in your diet. And that isn't a solution to food insecurity. That isn't the solution to the rising costs of food across the country.
So what about food banks? Well, food banks do help vulnerable communities. And as more Canadians struggle to put food on the table, many food banks say they will need even more support from individuals and the government. But it's not necessarily a long-term solution.
Addressing food insecurity has to go beyond food banks and soup kitchens because that doesn't really do anything to address the root cause of the issue. It's just treating the symptom of it.
McGosland says that as an economist, she doesn't recommend price controls. That would keep food prices at a certain level, but that the government can get involved in other ways. Both Blaze and McGosland say that one way to make up for the lack of affordability is for the government to provide income support, things like universal basic income or other types of assistance given directly to Canadians who need it. Blaze also says the government can help support local food systems and do more to address poverty, like providing more affordable housing.
It's important to understand how we eat and where we eat our food from. But don't worry too much. Prices fluctuate, and if they come up, they come down.
There are people all over the country fighting for that, to make sure that every single Canadian has access to healthy food all the time.
So it turns out that food is way more complicated than just grabbing an apple from the kitchen. Huh. Which makes me want to cherish each bite just a little bit more. For CBC Kids News, I'm Sarah Chaudhry, and this has been KN Explains. To explain this complicated topic, we turned to research and experts. So thank you to Rachel Blaze, Carol McGosland, and Simon Simoji for your interviews. I also used past reporting by the CBC and Radio Canada and information from the Dalhousie University's Agri-Food Analytics Lab, Feed Ontario, Community Food Centres Canada, and the Bank of Canada.
Well, when you've got too much of a good thing, there's always a willing buyer, right? A Winnipeg man attempting to clear his snow via Facebook Marketplace. And at 6:46, you're looking at a live shot of Science World tonight. Rain, rain, and more rain. Nick Czernkovich is going to break it all down with the full forecast after the break. Well, there's been a lot of snow in a lot of places this winter, and one man in Winnipeg has decided he's had enough of shoveling it. In an effort to get rid of the snow around his place, he placed a lighthearted ad on Facebook Marketplace.
One of a kind. Plenty of snow to select from? Get it now while it lasts. Free for pickup.
Reimer offered it up for free for anyone who wanted to come and get it. After extolling the unique quality of each individual flake, he offered up some tips for preserving it, like keeping it out of direct sunlight and keeping it refrigerated during the summer months. And if you're concerned that it might clash with your decor, he notes that it matches Benjamin Moore paint color 0 or OC66, also known as Snow White. Okay, Nick Czernkovich is back with the full forecast. Nick, this wet weather does not want to go away, does it?
Well, of course, Anita, we talked about the rainfall, and we've had these on and off rain showers yesterday. Seeing a pretty good thunderstorm moving through the region. It looks like the air is a little bit more stable today, so although I wouldn't totally rule out a rumble of thunder, generally what we're seeing here as we head through the evening and overnight period tonight is just showers, albeit heavy at times, and we've already seen that through the afternoon. The other story is going to be the temperatures, and one thing to note here is we've actually got fairly average temperatures. It's pretty much right on seasonal as we move through the 5-day forecast. Now today, the average high about 9 degrees. Today's high a little bit better than that at 11.1. The overnights, though, fairly warm as well, and you're feeling that in the humidity. The humidex, or actually I shouldn't say humidex, but the dew point is elevated, and so that's causing, in part, some of these overnight temperatures to be higher, but also a little bit more in the way of mugginess in the air. Afternoon temperatures generally 8, 9, 10 degrees across the region. As I said, the daytime high today was 11.1 for Vancouver. And that's basically the story. Now, the showers that we're seeing, they're sort of pushing up from the south, but we've got high pressure that's moving in, and that's going to dominate the weather pattern, certainly heading through the next few days into the long-range forecast. Still, though, some showers for tomorrow morning, and then as we head into tomorrow afternoon, they sort of clear out. The risk for some spotty showers, though, in the later afternoon hours, and then after that, it's really just high pressure in place and lots in the way of sunshine, although overnight fog patches likely to develop as we head into the weekend, just under generally clear skies. And that's the story through Saturday and Sunday, the weather pattern pretty much staying consistent. Broadly speaking, about 5 millimeters of rain is what's expected. However, locally we'll see higher amounts with some heavier showers moving through, but in general, not a big rainfall event. And winds are going to be fairly calm, upwards to about 20 kilometers per hour tomorrow afternoon, but it really seems to be about it, so not much to speak of in terms of the winds. There's a look at the broader forecast there. Temperatures pretty much bang on seasonal, a few showers, and that's really about it. And showers is the story for the morning. We'll see them later up the Fraser Valley just as the weather system pushes eastward. But for Metro Vancouver, mostly morning showers, then 9 degrees as we head through Friday. Lots in the way of sunshine. And that's a pretty average forecast, but you know what, in this case, average forecast is not too bad. Lots of sunshine heading into the weekend. Anita.
All right, thanks, Nick. There's pampering a pooch, and then there's next level, how your dog gets the full spa treatment at the Super Wolf Hotel next.
This is the Scotia Harvest groundfish trawler Leary Charles. It catches fish by dragging a net along the ocean bottom. Two heavy steel plates known as trawl doors weigh it down and keep the net open.
The heavy doors come up first.
It's a method that has not changed much in decades.
When the trawler net is dragging over a rough bottom, rollers are used on the foot ropes.
Mark D'Entremont and Angie Green are part of a multi-million-dollar collaboration trying to make trawling more sustainable.
So what we're trying to do is remove the trawl doors of the existing trawl equipment and flying that net above the seabed and avoiding obstacles as you pull it through the water.
The company has developed specially shaped blocks that, when attached to the net, will lift and separate it as water passes them. Sensors will direct winches to reel in and pay out cable to control the depth of the net, allowing trawling anywhere in the water column. Green, an accountant and fisherman's daughter, says they have to prove it to industry.
They want to hear that
There is less downtime for repairs and maintenance. It fits on their drum. They don't have to put their vessel into dry dock to retrofit for new gear. That it's not more expensive, that it fishes and it catches fish, that it saves them fuel, and that it's safer for their crew because there isn't 6,000-pound steel doors swinging around when the net comes up.
Their idea has attracted the interest of some big industry players and received funding through Canada's Ocean Supercluster program. Scotia Harvest will test the net on the Leary Charles in September. Clearwater is also a partner. Abco Industries in Lunenburg is responsible for another element of the project, uncrewed surface vessels or USVs that will carry fish finders that can tell species apart and act as scouts to direct boats to the fish.
With a USV, you're going to see a lot lower greenhouse gas emissions, and you're going to see a reduction in the amount of time that people and very expensive assets are spending in a very challenging conditions. So the idea is that the USV will help eliminate or minimize some of that and really optimize their operations at the end of the day.
The project will also test the use of lights and noise to attract and deter different species, as entrepreneurs try to make something old new again. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
A new doggy daycare in Cape Town, South Africa is taking it to the next level when it comes to pampering your pooch. Owners can check their fur baby into the luxurious Super Wolf Hotel for a short or long stay, and it's complete with a spa, a swimming pool, and a sunbathing terrace. Have a look.
I think more so now than ever, dogs are people's children, so they don't want to just be left at home to do nothing. Some of the key offerings we have is our splendid outdoor super sky deck. We've got a full table view mountain, the splash pool, not only AstroTurf but genuine grass as well, so the dogs have that natural feel, although it's in the city. Of course, we've got our handlers and staff on duty 24/7 to make sure that there's never ever a moment that a dog is being left unattended.
I would choose all of them, but I will have to just go with Stevie. Stevie's fun. Stevie likes me a lot. Stevie, when he sees me, he goes crazy.
We've got our customized lounges, which are absolutely delightful for the doggos. They really love sharing that space as a sleeping zone. They come here and get well spoiled, and just to make sure that at the end of the day they're knackered and happy when they go home.
I mean, I'd also like a spa like that. Thank you very much. And thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. We leave you tonight with pictures from the Holy Trinity Orthodox Cathedral in Vancouver. Ukrainians and supporters gathering as a community. Good night.